So welcome to this initial Innate Secrets podcast. So you'd not believe the angst, the procrastination and the internal perturbation that I've gone through getting to bring this presentation to you. Well, here it is. It's the first edition. It's much longer than most will be, but I thought it proper to give you a snapshot of my journey to this point. This is a place where those who suspect they're innately wise, brilliant and powerful come to learn how to transform their lives, one cognition, one realization and one blinding flash of the obvious at a time. We are the innovators, the record breakers, the world makers and creators of all kinds. We supersede the suppressive worldview of mass ignorance and awaken the strength within. We are waking up to our innate secrets. My name is Dr. Mark Postles and welcome to the Innate Secrets podcast. So everyone has a story. You and I have our own unique stories. These stories give us our identity. That we're on a journey in our life and we have a history in the past and we have a future. And we live in the now. And the sum total of the sense or the meaning we've made of our past gives us our viewpoint and our filters and our identity that we exhibit right now. And at the same time, our hopes and our aspirations and our vision for our future. So it would be fair to say then that our past is something that has been programmed in and by virtue of the experiences and the sense we've made of those experiences, and we've shifted our perception on the world based on those events and those perceptions. Now, this can work in our favour, this can work against us. And my interest is in the areas where it's not working in our favour, where we're not acknowledging the uniqueness, the wisdom, the power that we have lying within inside of us, because we've created misrepresentations, distortions of reality, and we've deleted certain things that are really valuable, and we're living a life which is less than we could possibly be living. So in order to just orient you to this, I want to just go back and relate some of my experiences so you can get a bit of a feel for where I've come from. And so that's what this podcast is dedicated to, and I'll just go through in a chronological order here some of the things that I think have formed me and may account for some of the behaviors, some of the accomplishments, some of the restrictions, some of the ideas and thoughts that I have. So right from my birth, I was told that it was arduous. It was very, very difficult, and it nearly led to my mother's death. And that's significant to me because it has, to some degree, formed a viewpoint on the world that I have and that I've operated by. And much of that, I would see, has been a huge blessing. So, I tend to have as a high value compassion. If I see something that is in need of support, I tend to rally to that. Also have a value around justice. I think it's important that that equality be honoured, and that individual effort and individual achievement be honoured, and that injustices are something that I will certainly rally against, and I have throughout my life. This has led me then to exploration. It's led me to looking at things from a different perspective, always taking a third viewpoint on something with intense curiosity. So I ask a lot of questions, and I tend to have a playful activity around what I do. So, one of our overriding mottos within our company is work is play with a purpose. And so, there's a playfulness about what I tend to do, and I tend to play devil's advocate a fair bit, and I've done that right throughout my life. And of course, all of these values have been have worked for me, but they've also worked against me, and particularly in in situations where authority is involved, such as schooling systems. So I've defied authority along the way, and yet at the same time supporting and having compassion for the team that I've been working with at any point in time, and getting looking for equality or justice wherever possible, and questioning why. And why was a huge thing for me when I was at school, when I was young. I couldn't understand learning a particular topic, a particular subject. Say, I remember French. The French teacher would walk in at the beginning of the year and say, "Okay, we're going to learn French, and this is a noun, this is a pronoun, and it's like, well, why? I did not see context for it, and it wasn't until sort of halfway through the year that she described Paris and the girls in Paris and the style of Paris and the French love of life and food and sensuality, and as a 15 or 16-year-old, that really got me thinking, okay, I could maybe learn this French thing because I could see value in it. So there was a rationale, there was a why that came to it. So that's sort of been my journey in terms of the way it's been formed has been very much around asking why, asking what the possibilities are. Now, as I grew up, there was times of certain uncertainty and stress, even globally there were, in the Cold War, and the pivotal points that of history of Martin Luther King's death and Kennedy being shot and so forth, which have an indelible mark upon me in terms of my life's journey as well. My family always wanted me to settle into something that was secure, and my grandfather managed to organise a job in an insurance company when I graduated or left high school, and that certainly wasn't for me. I realised that really, really quickly. I missed the draft for Vietnam. There was an odds and even birthday date arrangement for that, so I missed out on that in New Zealand. And so I travelled the world. I looked around for. I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want conformity. I didn't want the normal situation of going to university for the sake of getting a degree. I had this attitude of revolution, and as we did in the 60s, it was one of demonstrating that too. So it found me in a place in Vancouver, sitting across the table from a couple of young guys who told me all about this thing called chiropractic one night. And it was a defining moment for me. It was a pivotal point in my life's journey. At that point in time, I really decided to do something proactive. Up until then, I'd been revolution. I'd been working away from the system. Now I could see a way forward that I could support people, to help people, and tick so many of the boxes of my values hierarchy. So that led me on a long journey to get accepted into chiropractic college. I had the prerequisites, but had to get the financial things handled, which involved me traveling to a place I knew I could earn money, as I'd done once before in the deserts of West Australia, and in that process met my wife to be, Jackie. And once again, that was another pivotal point. One night, at one glance, and there was something very, very special there that 49 years later is still very, very strong. So and we've been married for 45 years. So that was a series of very serendipitous situations, but I think I was in a position where I could accept them and embrace them and enroll in them. So graduating as a chiropractor, I had the opportunity to have just an amazing journey in life's in a life of serving, in a life of business, partnership, ownership, having multiple practices, multiple associates, and earning many, many, many millions of dollars. One of the key things, though, in that journey at that point in time was that I invested heavily in myself and my self-development, and likewise in the development of others. But hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of courses have as I started to chip away at some of the things that were not serving me to the degree that they could have, and that awareness really allowed my entrepreneurial side to come out and allow me to take more risks, allow me to look beyond my little sandbox, my wee bubble, and entered into some business ventures which didn't necessarily work out too well at a financial level, so I lost a lot of money. However, huge personal development as a result. So, which is often the case. I think they say you're not a millionaire until you've lost $1 million, and that's been the process there of learning in the school of hard knocks, which I think I'm so grateful for in terms of the journey that I've had up until this point. So that was an opportunity then to start afresh when that calamity occurred, and from a financial point of view. But it was really, what was really interesting about that is that within 4 years, we'd outstripped our previous net worth, which was gained over 17 years. So, that was a big learning for me that you can take stuff from you, and stuff has very, very little meaning. But you can't take away the essence of the individual. You can't take away your learning and your understanding and your wisdom. That is something that goes with you forever. So that was a huge distinction for me. And so that led me into, in more recent years, in the last couple of decades or so, focusing on giving back, of coaching, of mentoring, of speaking. And this led me into many positions on boards and organisations, and particularly education institutions that have the value hierarchy that I buy into, and that hold to a certain line in the sand. So that's involved particularly chiropractic colleges and new initiatives for chiropractic colleges. And so that's been an amazing journey of learning and being able to give back. And I think when we give out and we teach, we learn so much more too. So during this time then, there's been a huge opportunity for me to observe how other people tick. And along the process of this, and particularly in coaching and mentoring, the recognition that personality types are as varied as there are people, and there have been many attempts over the years to identify personality types in certain profiling archetypal structures, and so I started to look into this because I found it really fascinating that firstly that there are certain archetypes that seem to be similar across all profiling systems, and within that, the majority of them are fours or multiples of four, and that was really fascinating. So I went back through over 200 personality profiling systems from Plato and Aristotle all the way through to the current day, and what I realized is with my knowledge of neurology and my knowledge of the way the brain works, that these archetypes were brain preferences, and brain preferences are laid in a certain way in which we predictably go through certain activities of our brain that gives our thoughts, that gives our behaviours, and gives the outcomes that we have in our life. And these, as I mentioned earlier about the history sort of preconditioning us, these are laid down, these brain preferences are laid down in the very early part of our lives, or the journey that we take to get to where we are now, and particularly in the first, I would say, 7 years of our life. And that sort of determines our identity at this point. So these brain preferences then are programs, and within any program, it can be changed, and particularly within the brain, there's a neuroplasticity within the brain that allows, or the whole nervous system, which allows us to change certain firing sequences. So, without going into any more technical detail on that, just know that this is one of the essences of what I'm dedicated to now in my life, and that is to share with people very simple cognitions about how it is that we do our life and how it is we do our thoughts and our behaviors based on our brain preferences. And there's some fundamental premises, I think, that are really important to get. And probably the key one of this is in this context is that you and I and we have all parts. There's nothing missing. Now, having said that, this is in normal circumstances. A person's had certain accidents, injuries, and operations that have excised parts or damaged parts and so forth. And obviously, there is some exception to that. And even genetic history, it's considered that now genetic determinism, or those genes determining who we are, has reduced significantly in its impact. In other words, they're saying now that it's about 5% of sicknesses, illnesses, and are genetic, and the rest of it is by the nature, the environment that we're surrounded in. So this field of epigenetics has really blown apart some of the older theories of genetic determinism. So, the point that goes with this is that behaviorally, then, we have all parts. There's nothing broken, there's nothing missing, and there's nothing that needs to be fixed. There's no behavior that needs to be fixed. They're all of existence is in order. And this is a presupposition which some people won't necessarily buy into. And if that's the case, then it's probably not worth considering this, because if we think that we're victims, then and there's nothing that can be done, and that we have to be fixed from the outside in with some other mechanical means, then life becomes rather dull, rather beige. So I would suggest that all existence is in order, and that in all living things is an intelligence. And this I see as your innate wisdom, your innate brilliance. So the innate model is a product of many, many years, over 20 years of study and experimentation on how people think and how they tick, how they behave. And this extends to relationships. So no two people are the same. And I'm sure, as you observe, then the relationships you have with people generally tend to stick with or become sticky when you get your viewpoint on something and the other person's viewpoint on something, and they happen to be different. And that then is the juice of life, but it's also a challenge in life. And so what we find within the innate model is there is an ability to see from another's point of view and to walk in their shoes, so to speak, which could be very much not you in terms of your preferences. However, that allows you then to reconnect, or to connect maybe for the first time with that person. This could be said with groups and the designing of groups and the designing of teams, and we work with lots of businesses that find that extremely useful to be aware of the individual preferences, behavioural preferences that people have, and to place them accordingly in their teams, and to look for the gaps and to hire for the gaps. And this extends into corporations. It even extends into countries. So there's these pre-programmed imprints that occur that we call culture. The human essence is greater, though, than any of these imprints. And there is a point of joining. When we go to a high enough level, you could take warring tribes, warring countries, warring regions, and bring them to a higher point of agreement. And we find that the essence of humanity is greater than these superficial imprints that we all carry around with us. So the innate model then honours the greatness within you. That's the purpose of these podcasts. So this podcast then is a collection of thoughts with suggestions for action. And I want to make sure that it's a usable thing. And it's something that won't take long, won't take much out of your day. They're short. They're much shorter than this introductory piece, for example. And they're based on monthly themes. So we have themes for every month, and then they're delivered in at least weekly or more frequently episodes, and probably some random episodes as well. And obviously, when I get on a rant, I find it quite useful to express it, and this is going to be a new form of expression. So we'll see how that flows. So I invite you then to subscribe and like these podcasts. And the more support you give it, the more you share it, the more feedback we're going to get. So if you can give me feedback, let us know about your wins. Let us know what it's done for you when we make a suggestion and you apply it and you notice what changes. Give me requests for commentary on certain issues too. So if there's something that you would love to hear more about, then let us know and suggest people who can enrich this program. So in other words, if you identify someone who you think would be a great addition to this program, I'm very happy to interview them. So let us know on that. So no matter what your area of interest and endeavor, I'm sure that the innate secrets will open your mind to the infinite potential that lies within you. So I'm really looking forward to joining with you in this journey. I'm Dr. Mark Postles. If you need to contact me at any time, feel free, and let's go into the innate secrets. Let us show you how to fire your brain in ways that serve you so that you can be confident, connected, and bring joy and passion into what you do every day. Get a free copy of my book, The Innate Model. Go to theinnatemodel.com/free book.